I may. I'd like to know what you might need from us this evening in order for you to be able to move forward with the motion that did prevail with going down, creating a framework for single districts. Since we've made that decision, what else do you need us to be discussing at this point, especially before we adjourn for this evening?
Just give me a second to think. A bigger staff, a company car. I think a subsequent meeting. Give me 2 weeks. Okay. And let me contact a couple of districts and talk to them. I don't know. The last time we had conversation was November or October with these places. Things change. And so I'm not sure that there is still an interest. But let me do some calling. Then if we can get back in a couple of weeks, and if you're going single district, start talking about those things that are important to you. But I wouldn't get so specific that you're putting the negotiations out in a public forum before they occur. So, for instance, one of the things that I heard, I think, is a concern that if we go to a single district, we don't want to be so restrictive that youngsters who would want to go somewhere else would be unnecessarily deprived of doing that. That's all I need to know from the board. Because then when we sit down with one or two, and that's all there are going to be, districts, we can then begin to have that conversation before we reach an agreement on a contract. How long do you want the contract to be? Do you want representation in that school district? So, you know, make believe it was, I mean, everybody knows that Pinkerton has the capacity to be a player. I'm not sure that Pinkerton is interested in us today. I mean, I have no reason not to think that, but I don't know. You know, they're a very quiet school. They like to maintain a low profile.
Definitely not low profile.
No, and that's not what I mean by that. But if Pinkerton and another district would have the capacity, and I go to that other district and I say, want to take all our kids? There may be somebody that is out there that would say, you know, we love your kids. We don't have room, but we could put on an addition. And if we put on an addition and you help us to pay for it, I mean, there are those things that happen. So I would want to come back to you with that information and not exclude anybody. And then if I say to Pleasantville, would you give us a spot on your school board? Is that important to you? I'm not saying that you answer that tonight. But if we can meet in 2 weeks and everybody brings with them, here are the things that are important to me in forging an agreement with someone else, we can start to put those things together without negotiating against ourselves, which I'm concerned about.
Mr. Pearl?
Well, two things that Dr. Littlefield said concern me, because if there is another possible district, then I would think the math would then work that multiple contract is feasible. If you just consider those numbers, because Mrs. Corcus, you said that there's no numbers to support multiple contract. Well, that would tend to believe that that excludes another district from having that capacity. And then if you consider what Dr. Littlefield said, that they might expand to accommodate us, I would think the same could be true of multiple contract schools. So that kind of concerns me, of how we just dismissed that. The other thing is, I think without saying it, we all know what the big concern is with going to a multi-contract. Again, if we get down that road and that's an intractable thing, we are left with no options. So what the board has done tonight is limited itself, and to Dr. Littlefield's point, we shouldn't be negotiating here in public. But look at what we just did. We just narrowed that competition to probably one or maybe two schools. Had we kept multi-contract on the table, there would have been more in play. We would have had much better negotiating position. And now we may be left to negotiate with one school, which is likely not to be much of a negotiation. I would like Dr. Littlefield to, in 2 weeks, come back with the $64,000 question that we've been talking about, which is opting out. How many? And I think that should be the first question that we ask, because it's certainly the concern, I think, of citizens and at least a couple members of this board. So why don't we get that question answered right off the bat?
Mr. Lascars, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a point Dr. Littlefield, said, come back in 2 weeks. And he said, bring back those things that are important to you. I would just remind the board that we're just representation of the people. It's not us, it's the representatives of the people of Hooksett. And tonight I did my best to bring here to this board what is out there in our community. And that was ignored. And we're now down a narrow path. And to Mr. Pearl's point, it's an excellent point. We've just limited our negotiations by doing such. So, thank you.
So, Dr. Littlefield, you have stated 2 weeks, that you feel you need 2 weeks. So that would be, would we want to look at getting together on July 2nd? Is that a time when you're not on vacation?
Let's see, July 2nd, you say? I'm busy that night. My intent, and I always get antsy after the board takes a vote when I start hearing my name.
Well, we don't mean to make you nervous.
No. I get nervous because I always try and fulfill the will of the board. So the board has made a decision as a board. So I will deliver to you the best single district contract that can be delivered. That's my job. If you had voted for a multi-district contract, I would have delivered the best multi-district contract. The 2-week period, Madam Chair, I could actually meet with you tomorrow night. The 2-week period is to give you an opportunity to get in touch with your constituents, your friends, your neighbors. I'm hoping, and I know I'm stepping out of line, and I sat here for 3 hours and I was good. I'm hoping that one of the board members will make a motion to amend the agenda to allow for public participation tonight. Not because I know anybody wants to speak, but I know that, and I'll take the blame for it, when we were doing the agenda, I didn't even think of it when I was thinking of a workshop. So the purpose of the 2 weeks I'm suggesting is for you individually to do your due diligence with your constituency. It doesn't have to be fancy. It's pressing the flesh. It happens at Market Basket. It happens at the Stop and Shop. It happens at
Hannaford.
Hannaford's. Happens at Tractor Wholesaler's Warehouse. You know, and then bring back and let's engage in a discussion that supports the action that this board has taken. That's why I need the 2 weeks. Otherwise, we could do it next week.
Mr. Liscars, you had your hand up first.
Yes, just 2 points. One, about public input. I had a lot of citizens who were very concerned about the agenda tonight. There was no public input. And as you have said now in many meetings, Chair Corcus, you don't like surprises. And many residents said to me, I wanted to speak at public input, and I said, I looked at the agenda, there is no public input. They said, then I'm not coming, you know, I got a lot going on. So now for us to all of a sudden add public input on is a disservice to those folks that actually like to plan and don't like to be surprised. The second thing is, you talk about going out and talking to our neighbors and such. I delivered to you tonight 751 signatures. And these aren't neighbors of mine or friends of mine. This is about as generic as a poll as you're going to get. It was taken at our election. It was ignored tonight. And the last question I have is, at our last meeting, Dr. Littlefield, you called us a rudderless ship. You said, get out of my way. And you said, for the next 2 weeks, 24/7, I'm going to work on the plan. And I just want to be sure before I leave tonight, is what was proposed tonight, the graphics and everything, is that the plan, or is there more to it than what we saw tonight? Just want to make sure I understand that. Thank you.
Should I answer that, Madam Chair?
If you would like to answer that, Mr.
I am a
Bill,
man-
you are more
I-
than willing
I am
to
a
answer it.
man- I am a man of peace, no matter how many times I'm baited. If this board had a well-planned and articulated frame of, or plan of action, and my statement was incorrect, then I would apologize to the entire community, and you need to show me that plan of action. Otherwise, you are a rudderless ship. And get out of my way and let me do my job. Is what I said. It's what I meant. And let me once and for all say this. Since this is the second or third time I've been challenged on what I say, I want this board, I challenge this board tonight by a vote. Now there's 5 of you. Your superintendent is restricted from commenting on matters of public policy, or he's not. I've seen a lot of First Amendment silliness going back and forth over the last 2 weeks. I teach the course at the graduate school level. I know what freedom of speech is all about. I know what the First Amendment is all about. I know what New Hampshire statute is on the right of public employees to speak. I know who's a public employee and who's not. And just because somebody is on the losing end of the vote, I will not be harassed for the next 2 weeks. If I'm right, I want this board to tell me I'm right. Somebody have the guts to say, I make a motion to say he's right. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But this has got to stop. I know the minute it became a single vote, that everything, a single school district, everything I said, if I hadn't called you a rudderless ship, and if I hadn't had the courage to exercise the leadership that I you can smile all you want to smile, but you're not going to shut me up. If I hadn't done that, you would have been talking tonight about configuration of the tables, email notification systems, and we never would have gotten to the issue of high school. I pushed you there, we had the discussion,
Madam Chair.
and I'm interrupted one more time. I have nothing else to
Leanne,
say. I will not have my right to speak. Excuse me, as a member of this board. I have as much right to speak here as any one of you, by policy.
Leanne, I'd like to make a motion that the Hooksett School
Madam
Board...
Chair, I'm trying to be recognized. I was asking to be recognized during Dr. Littlefield's speech, but I didn't continually keep my hand up, as I know he finds that
Go ahead,
offensive.
Mr. Pearl.
Yes. I don't really understand, Dr. Littlefield, exactly what it is that you want to have stopped, because I thought we were having a pretty constructive conversation here tonight, and after the vote, I tried to point out a few things that I think may be pitfalls for us. What I would like to ask you is that a number of times throughout the time I've been on the board, you have identified yourself as the educational leader of this district. Yet, tonight is the first time that you bring forth a plan and the urgency about what we need to do with high school. I understand that perhaps this board has gotten tied up into some things that may be ridiculous from the point of view, but you're the professional, and I want to ask why early in the year you did not bring this forward as a priority to this board to try to steer us into a discussion then, instead of having a discussion now. You're interrupting me, and you just asked me not to.
You are not
interrupt
talking
me.
to school business, you're harassing me.
Oh,
I asked for a vote of this board.
Wait a minute,
I'm going to
wait a
go to
minute,
that
wait a
door.
minute.
You're
I
going
have
to
the
give me that
floor.
vote
I
by
have
the
the
time
floor.
I get to the door.
I have the
Leanne, I'd
floor,
like to
Madam
make a
Chair.
motion.
Madam Chair,
Mr.
he
Pearl.
asked not to
Mr.
be
Pearl, you are being
interrupted,
harassing.
Superintendent.
and you're being rude.
Pearl.
You are being rude.
Out of order. Leanne, I'd like to make a motion that the Hooksett School Board has 100% confidence in our educational leader.
I second. Call it to a vote.
All those in favor of calling it to a vote,
Nope.
please
Wait a minute,
signify by saying
discussion.
aye.
Madam
Aye.
Chair.
All those in favor of
Discussion.
calling it to a vote, please signify by saying aye.
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 Madam Chair, we
All
have
those
no
opposed,
discussion.
all those opposed
Vote.
signify by saying aye. You're out of order, and if you speak again, the cops are coming to take you out of the meeting.
Yes.
I have that
Thank
right.
you very much. Madam Chair.
I'm not
Madam Chair.
recognizing you.
Madam Chair.
All those in
please
favor
call
of 100%
the police.
confidence in the
Please
superintendent
call
of the
the
school
police.
district, please signify
Madam
by saying
Chair.
aye. Yes, please.
Madam Chair.
I'd like to make
All
a
those in
motion to
favor
adjourn,
signify by
please.
saying aye.
Aye.
Madam
Aye.
Chair.
All those opposed. If you're
Abstain,
opposed.
because there was no discussion.
Madam Chair, your meeting is totally out of order.
I'd like to make a motion.
Abstain.
So noted.
Like to abstain, make sure I get abstain.
Can we
on
hear a
it.
little louder from the audience, please? Oh, very professional. Thank you very much.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
No. There was no discussion, and that broke Robert's rules, Madam Chair.
On the table to adjourn.
I'd like to motion that we adjourn the meeting. I think it's an appropriate time based on folks getting heated, et cetera, and I think it'd be a good time to break and call it a night.
Second.
I'd like to speak to
I'll-
the motion.
Speak to what motion? To
The
adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I would like Dr. Littlefield to answer the question. I do not understand why he created a crisis.
Not related to the motion.
tonight.
It's not related to the motion. All those in favor?
No, Madam Chair.
It is not
Madam
related.
Chair, can you hear me out, please?
You're out of order,
Why
and
am
do
I
I,
out of order?
because you're not speaking to the motion.
If you'd let me explain why I
No.
am.
All those in favor of
Madam Chair.
adjourning this meeting signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Meeting adjourned.
No. I don't care. I voted no. This meeting was totally inappropriate and out of order. You know that.
You can't just let it go. John,